I'm Greg with Greg's Airbrushing and Greg's Tattoos, and today I want to thank a couple people for liking and sharing their questions with me on YouTube. Let's see here. Here we go. All right, Zachary Brown. Also, let's see here. Joe Sachs, Mandy, January, Hand 4 Letters, Brush Strokes, Easy, Airbrush and Design, Danny Q, and Rafi Angel. Thank you guys for your questions. Today's video is to try to help you guys out with the concerns that you had concerning the airbrushes. So again, Iwata is what I prefer to use. Here we have the HP BCS, and here we have the HP SBS. So thank you guys again, and I'm gonna try to speak to your concerns concerning the types of airbrushes and what they're to be used for. Zachary Brown spoke to, his question kind of revolved around the SBS here and the 0.35 nozzle. All right, so Zach, again, I just wanted to show you the difference in the nozzles right here. 0.35 and 0.5. As you can see, just off the top, the 0.35 is much smaller. And it's one of those nozzles that you want to try to stay away from as it pertains to constantly playing with it. I've had people bring airbrushes to me that had the tops of these nozzles split, broken off, bent, the whole nine. If you can keep from touching this nozzle, I would say stop touching it. Now, of course, to clean it, just make sure that you run your solution through your airbrush to clean it. If you have to break it down, send some air through it to kind of clean it out. Try not to stick anything inside of it if you don't have to. Also, I just recently did a video concerning the BCS and the nozzle. Also, just make sure that if it's not bent or split right here, you're good to go. If it is, and you have a little drag on your airbrush, a little tail on the end of it, that's probably a problem right there. Check that out first. Let's see here. Also, if you have more than one airbrush, make sure you do not commingle the parts. I made that mistake, and I've shared that information with you guys before. So let's move to the SBS. It is pretty much just like the BCS. Got your needle, your needle locking nut. This right here is your shaft housing. It's gonna have your spring, your shaft, strike plate, all combined. Unlike the BCS, where all of these parts are individual. Okay? Man, can you imagine trying to keep all this together? Okay, it looks intimidating, but it's really not, guys. But Iwata stepped their game up on the SBS and combined it all. I love this right here. Great job at Iwata. Now, I'm right-handed, so I like to get in over top of my airbrush and keep the cup out of my face. Now, if you want to switch, just take the lock out here for your lefties, boom, you can airbrush. Or however you want to kind of view your work as you're working on it, so to say. Okay, I like to keep it on the right side. Now, I'm just go ahead and break this down here. Trigger and the male end of the quick disconnect, and then of course you have your body. Don't forget that O-ring right there. Okay, make sure that O-ring is there. If not, the suction that you're going to need to create in the front end of your airbrush is not going to take place, and it may blow paint back through into your bottle and then destroying a project that you're working on. So make sure you have that here. Now, the cup. I love these cups, and I also hate them at the same time, but there is a Teflon little plastic sheet that is inside the base of the cup. I'm gonna try to clean that off. All right, so you can see has paint on the cup. All right, this little base, this little white Teflon sheet actually comes out. Okay, it's very important, don't lose that. If you do happen to lose it, you can still use your airbrush, but it's kind of hard to keep it as clean and free flowing as you'd like. Okay, so most of the paint that I use in this right here is an illustration paint anyway, and it doesn't gum up as much. I usually just clean it right out as soon as I use it. I happen to use it today on my Nipsey Hussle portrait that you see behind me, but try to keep this area right here clean and do not lose that Teflon sheet. The bottom of the cup, there is an actual hole that will allow paint to be siphoned up through the base of this cup into this through this little straw-like tube into your airbrush. Okay, so you're like, how does this work? There's a little hole at the base of this here. As you can see, my airbrush is a little dirty, so let me see if I can clean this off so you guys can see it. All right, so right here you'll see the hole. It's a little brown right here. Okay, now it creates a space right there, a little gap where the paint can drop down, touching the little Teflon sheet here, and then being sucked up into the body of the cup, out into this little straw here. Okay, so keep this area clean. If you happen to let it dry up into your cup, I'm telling you guys, it's gonna be hard to keep it. I mean, it's gonna be hard to recover from that. So make sure that you clean this cup as soon as you use it. Let's see here. Now, I would just soak these, clean them, and then put it back together again. But what I'm gonna do now is just put it back together so that you guys can learn how to do it, and you don't need a 20-minute video to show that. So I'm gonna start with my body again. Make sure my trigger is clean. Remember, previous video I showed you guys how to make sure that trigger is functional. Also, don't forget your Aiwata lube right here. We're just gonna put a little bit of it on our trigger, and we're gonna place it. Okay. Remember, once you clear the window of the body, just kind of feel for that strike plate, and I'm telling you, you're making it harder than what it needs to be, but this is probably the hardest part, putting this airbrush together. And I can do it with my eyes closed because it just takes a little bit of practice, guys. So get it over top of the hole, wiggle for it, and it drops right in, okay? Once again, Aiwata did a great job building this airbrush. Great job. Now, I'm also going to take a little bit of the lube, put it on my shaft and spring, and a little bit on the thread of the housing assembly. And to put this together, the nipple here needs to come out of the top of the hole. So I'm just going to take it into the body like this here and screw it all the way in, all the way forward, and then 1 to 1.5 evolution. Okay, boom, it is ready to rock and roll. Okay, now I'm gonna take the nozzle housing assembly, and remember I told you guys before, this right here is this nozzle cap, protects the nozzle and the needle if you drop it, and you have the covering of the nozzle here. I just keep all of these together, and hopefully there's no reason for you to have to separate them. Okay, and boom. Okay, screw it on, triggers in place, nozzles in place. Now I'm gonna just clean off my needle a little bit without bending it. Be careful with this needle, guys. It's not the standard 0.5 needle. It's a 3.35 needle. So be real careful with it, guys. All right, put a little bit of lube in the middle. Don't put it on the tip of your needle, because if you do, if you're doing some automotive or what have you, it could cause your clear coat to bubble up because there's a foreign grease on the artwork. Okay, so I try to keep it away from the top of my needle, or the point of my needle rather. All right, my needle's in, I tapped it, make sure it's flush. I don't want to slam it in, I'm just going to lightly tap it. Now I'm going to put my needle locking nut on, make sure it's locked down. And guys, be careful when you go to lock this down. I've actually seen where people have broken their airbrush here in the thread because they pinch and twist down too tightly on the locking locking nut. So be careful with that. Okay. The only part of this airbrush that are parts that you're going to really have to worry about changing out, if you're careful on a regular basis, would be the nozzle and the needle. All right, so we're locked down here. We're going to put the back end of our airbrush together, and boom. Clean out our cup, of course, and we're ready to rock and roll. And it's still off our other side. Okay, so that didn't take a lot of time at all, hopefully. Last part, of course, is our male quick disconnect, our male end. And this right here is our female end. I don't use the jungle hose theory, so to say. I just use one hose with a quick disconnect on it, and all 30 airbrushes have a quick disconnect on the end. So, okay, so it's a little expensive at first, but I just like not having to worry about fighting over multiple hoses. Okay. Other than that, Zach, the reason why you're having a problem, and we're going to move the camera back. The reason why you're having the problem with a 0.35 nozzle and needle assembly is because it's really used for fine detail. You're going to do something like this here with that. Okay. I would suggest you use the 0.5 and try out the dagger strokes. I got a couple of videos out that you can take a look at concerning how to control your airbrush and doing dagger strokes, and you're going to get the writing thickness in one pass, so to say, that you're really looking for. So the 0.35 is going to give you that detail you're looking for, but your 0.5 is going to give you that writing and that everyday airbrushing that you're probably going to do more so than the detailed work. So it's also just kind of getting used to your airbrush. All right. Again, hey guys, thanks. Hopefully the information I shared with you is going to help you. And log on, subscribe to the channel, share it with friends, and I'll keep putting out videos for you. I'm Greg with Greg's Tattoos and Greg's Airbrushing. Talk to you soon.
Hey, like and subscribe to Greg's Airbrushing.